Welcome to a new episode of React Native Weekly. This is a show whereby I talk about the latest developments, interesting things which happened in React Native, any interesting tweets or news. So if you're looking forward to anything like that, please subscribe to this channel. I've also linked as well a link to my newsletter if you want to get this through your mail, and enjoy. This is for the news ending on the week of the 25th of June 2023. Some exciting things happened this week, including the Stack Overflow annual survey. So 90,000 developers actually filled in this survey, which is really impressive, given that most of the time developers don't tend to respond to surveys. So that's also another indication there as well that you should take some of the results in this survey with a grain of salt. It might not be a true representation of what is happening in the industry, as you know that there are over 10 million developers worldwide. So 90,000 is a really small sample set, so you can't really base it on have true accuracy on that. But then some of the things that I can just mention that there were some interesting highlights. For example, the AI usage is actually way up. Over 70% of all respondents are planning or are using AI tools. That means then also React Native developers actually utilizing the full power of AI, which is quite cool and something that you should watch out for. But then one thing which is a bit sad when it comes to React Native was that we actually saw that compared to the same survey which was done last year to this year, we saw a decrease in the usage of React Native up amongst the 90,000 of a couple of thousand developers which responded to the survey. This is something like I said, I think some of these results you actually take with a grain of salt, because it's a small subset of React Native developers who actually answered the survey. So we know that React Native is still a popular framework and it has its own strengths. However, the growth of Flutter is a sign that the framework is becoming a serious contender when it comes to the mobile development space. And as React Native developers ourselves, we should just take watch of what is happening, and we should just look at the strengths of Flutter, for example its performance, its ease of use, and the community, and see how we can impart that into the React Native community, and how we can pick and choose the best parts which is happening in the Flutter community. So we already know things like React Native Skier are some of the elements which have been taken or adopted from the Flutter community. So it's things like that which will make React Native even way better. So that means then when it comes to the same survey in 2024, we are expecting React Native to have a better usage amongst professional developers. So that's something which happened. Going to the next one is just a highlight whereby a fifth of all top 100 medical devices actually implemented with React Native, or I can say they use React Native in some sorts. So this came up from Evan Bacon's tweet. So as you might know, Expo has some insider knowledge when it comes to some of the packages these apps are using. but it's pretty cool to see, and just also talks to the power of React Native. And so this is pretty cool. So if you didn't know about it, now you know. This is something which took me by surprise as well, because I mean, you really think about the medical apps, and cool to see that React Native is represented when it comes to that category or that field. So this is pretty cool. The next story is about React Native and Native Script. So Native Script did this comparison whereby they used React Native modules across Angular, React, Solid, Svelte, and Vue.js. So Native Script allows you to use different frameworks in a similar way how React Native allows you to only use React to build your apps, but then Native Script allows you to bundle different frameworks. So they did a test whereby they used the different frameworks with React Native modules, and it was surprising to see like the results from like their test, with Angular at times coming out first, but then like with everything, it all depends on the use case. Solid was also like really good performance, gave a really good performance. So this is cool. So I'll put the link to this in the descriptions for you to check it out yourself. Then going to the next story, all things Apple Vision Pro with React Native. So Apple released their Apple Vision Pro SDK. By now, almost everyone knows about the Vision Pro. Basically, it's Apple's new interactive 3D goggle or a VR headset, which allows you to immerse yourself into the space around you and allows you to interact with windows, volume, spaces. So this week they released their SDK. It includes SwiftUI, so that means then you'll be able to use SwiftUI to create apps for the Vision Pro. You can also use Reality Kit and AR Kit. Since SwiftUI is included, that means then also React Native, because we know that with React Native you can actually bundle native code, of which SwiftUI is one of those codes. So over the weekend or over the week we saw a couple of demos using React Native to create apps for the Vision Pro, and we saw some really nice examples. Some of them were using Skier, like this example I'm showing right now. We're using Skier, so using Skier to draw the different vectors. And then we saw some other cool examples as well, which came from Software Mention, whereby they're demoing React Native reanimated in a game, but then everything is in the Apple Vision Pro. Like, the demo is quite cool. I've placed all the links in the description. So there's some really cool example as well by the folks at Expo, since you can actually use the config plugins to create the apps. So this was like all the examples here that I'm talking about are linked in the show notes in the description. So we saw that React Native reanimated, gesture handler, and screens all working in a React Native app, but then for the Vision Pro. So basically, since you are able to use the windows, you are able to actually create a React Native app within a window in the Apple Vision Pro. A window is similar to, let's say, like a browser or a web view, if I can say. You can actually think of a window as a web view. Then within that web view, you can then embed anything that you want. But then at the same time, you can have React Native in a volume. A volume is basically it can be like a React Native app, but then there's like some depth into it, whereby you can have like the screen shifted a little bit, or you can have spaces as well. Spaces when you have two different React Native apps running next to each other. So these are some of the key concepts of the Apple Vision Pro, especially running React Native. So we already know that with React Native you can actually run pretty cool, like really good augmented reality apps, and there are already apps out there for education and training, apps with special computing requirements. So this is not something which is new for React Native, but it's cool to see it in action. Cool. I hope you enjoyed the summary for this week. Have a great week, y'all. Cheers.